Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm Flash. Today, I thought I'd go over a category I missed in my ranking series and rank who I believe are the top 10 mid-price options in Supercoach for 2026. As with the rookies video, I'll be ranking all the mid-pricers regardless of position, and for the purpose of this video, I am defining a mid-pricer as a player between 200k and 450k. So players like Jordan Sweet and Jasper Fletcher will miss out, despite both being viable options for your teams. Other honourable mentions include, but are not limited to, Colby McKercher, Kadeen Coleman, Chenkuth Giath, Archie Roberts, Adam Treloar, Darcy Parish, Sam Draper, Sam Lawler, Shai Bolton, Charlie Curnow, Lockie Blackiston, and Bailey Humphries, all who I believe are worth consideration, but that I don't feel, for whatever reason, crack the top 10. And so now that that's out of the way, let's crack into the top 10. Just making the top 10 in 10th is Brent Daniels. 2025 was a largely injury-interrupted year for Brent, as an abdominal injury ruled him out for most of the first half of the season. This has resulted in him being underpriced compared to his likely output, which, if 2024 is anything to go by, is likely around the 90s. As I said before, he's just made the top 10, edging out the likes of Parish and McKercher for that spot, and while those two are both good options, it's Brent's lower price of 300k and forward availability that have really helped him on this list. At his best, he's a game changer who's capable of a 120, and otherwise he's a solid role player who'll pump out consistent scores within the 70 to 90 range. On a small side note, while I was researching his previous Supercoach scores, I found out he scored a whopping 195 in 2024 against Freo with 29 disposals, 13 tackles and 3 goals. This is a perfect example of his absolute ceiling, and while he shouldn't be expected to go anywhere near this, it shows that he's got a score within him that most players don't have. In 9th, I've got the up-and-coming Melbourne midfielder, Harvey Langford. Melbourne have cleaned out their midfield in this past trade period, as they look towards a life without the big three of Gawn, Track and Clary, giving more opportunity to the youth to take over. While the Ds do still have Jack Viney and have brought in Jack Steele as a contested first possession midfielder, their actions have signified their intentions to rebuild. While the Ds brought in Jack Steele, their actions have signified their intention to start rebuilding, and there would be no better way to start that than giving your youth more minutes. Harvey Langford is better positioned than any of the other midfielders Melbourne have drafted in the last 3 years to capitalise, and by all reports, he's looking better than ever in the preseason reports from both the club and outside onlookers. This is why I've chosen to put him in 9th, as a solid 5th or 6th midfield option. In 8th, I've got another player to have your eye on during Melbourne's preseason games, Langford's teammate and fellow midfielder, the emerging star, Trent Rivers. Similar to Harvey Langford, Melbourne cleaning out their midfield gives more opportunity to players like Trent Rivers to truly fasten their magnet in that area of the ground. While he is at the upper end of that price range I gave at the beginning at 446k, his young age and the opportunity in front of him is practically screaming a breakout year. He'll be one to watch for the preseason games, as will a number of players on this list. But considering what he's shown in the past as a damaging half-backer, and given he spent the last 2 preseasons training with the midfield group, I've placed him in 8th as someone to have your eye on as a potential pod going to round 1. In 7th is the 2023 number 1 pick, Harley Reid. Harley Reid is another one who's been looking great coming into the preseason. Being described as, quote, fitter, faster, stronger, Reid's 2026 offseason is a polar opposite to his last offseason, where he turned up overweight and unfit. This means that the budding Eagle is ready for a breakout year we were all hoping for last year. On top of this, with the potential return of Elliot Yeo from the grip of injuries, Harley Reid should get a more favourable role in that midfield, increasing his scoring. He has the potential to become a solid scoring option, primed and ready to hit regular tons. However, it's his attitude and behaviour that makes him a liability, as he's someone who could incur a suspension for something painfully stupid. That's why I couldn't place him any higher than 7th on this list. But above Reid, in 6th, I have Joel Frazier, dubbed the Baby Bont by fans and commentators alike. Joel Frazier represents the future of that Bulldogs midfield, alongside Ed Richards. An explosive midfield forward, Frazier has showed hints of Bont's ability both on the field and in Supercoach scoring. Coming off a year of improvement, averaging just shy of 80 in 2025, the continued aging of that Bulldogs midfield should give Frazier more opportunities to show why he deserves a spot over the likes of Liver, Treloar and Kennedy. When he was given good midfield time, it showed, with him scoring an average of 101 in games he got 30% or more CBAs. However, there have been patches where he hasn't been able to find the ball, going weeks without putting up a score above 65. That being said, he is only 20, and with another preseason under his belt, a fair amount of growth should be expected going into the season. And the forward eligibility is handy, contributing to why I've put him just shy of the top 5 in 6th. Making the top 5, however, in 5th is Connor McDonald. Coming into his 5th year in the sport, Connor McDonald has made a name for himself in the Hawthorn half forward line, being a key part of their flashiness and their scoring proficiency. However, with Warple being traded out, there were murmurs of Connor getting a move into the midfield. These murmurs were confirmed when he started pre-season training with the Mids, and with Will Day now set to miss the first half of the season with a dislocated shoulder, Connor McDonald seems one of the first in line to help reinforce John Newcombe and Josh Ward in that midfield come opening round. Again, the forward eligibility helps, and with him being more developed and having a more concrete role than the likes of Joel Frazier, I've chosen to place Croc above him in 5th. Also making the top 5 in 4th is Miles Bergman. Miles Bergman is a pick that impressed towards the end of last year, scoring 6 tons in his last 11 games of 2025. Now, that year for him was cut off by injury, but he's training well in the preseason and seems to be at full strength. However, at these preseason training, it's been reported that Bergman's role in the midfield so far has been more of a defensive midfield role than an offensive one, meaning he could turn into a James Peatling pick of 2025, someone we all thought would score incredibly well, but disappointed. He's definitely one to watch come the preseason matches, and his form last year is what has led me to put him above the others on this list, so far in 4th. In 3rd on this list is the Freo midfielder, Hayden Young. Hayden Young suffered multiple hamstring injuries last year that kept him out of action for most of it, but when he played, he was electric. This was exemplified in the Western Derby, when, despite only playing 3/4 of that match, he was named man of the match and scored 120 points. He's an injury risk for sure, but his upside is unreal, and that's why I've put him in 3rd on this list. Someone else that's coming off an injury that presents great value is my pick for number 2, Nick Newman. Now, I've already touched on Nick Newman in my Defender video, so I'll keep this one short. Nick Newman is coming off a patella injury he sustained in 2025, but in 2024, he averaged 101, playing that dream Seagull halfback role. If he gets through the preseason unscathed, he'll be a good, consistent scorer that will also make some good cash on the side, which is why I've got him in 2nd on this list. But the player I've got in 1st won't just be a value option to come in, make some cash, and bin before the buys. This forward will be a season-long keeper. This year, he should be the second coming of Bailey Smith, of Isaac Heaney, and himself. In 1st, I've got Sam Flanders. I'll let the stats speak for themselves. In 2024, he averaged 120 points over the course of the season, and would have been the top forward line scorer had it not also been Heaney's breakout season as well. He broke the Gold Coast disposal record and was a staple in that Gold Coast midfield and halfback line. Unfortunately, he was pushed out of these roles when Rioli and Noble came through, and with the improvement of Bailey Humphries and Matt Rowell and Noah Anderson. However, the Saints paid up big for him, parting with pick 7 and $800K a year to get him in, and they aren't paying him $800K to play in the forward line. He's been the consensus F3 pick in everyone's teams this year, and coming in at $396K, he is the best mid-pricer you can start this year in Supercoach. So that's it. That's my list of the top 10 mid-pricers you can start for the 2026 Supercoach season. Comment down below which of these mid-pricers you've picked in your teams, and which mid-pricers you think I've missed. As the preseason rolls through, I might make some updates to these rankings, so subscribe if you don't want to miss them. And so, with that, I'll see you all in the next one. Happy coaching.